Like 50, there's only 4 niggas that I know personally in Queens that wasn't scared of Preem. 50, E-Money Bags, Homo, and Big Nose Troy.
Today, we have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
There's supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like, there's nobody that's too ill. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. It's in the environment.
Looks like 50 Cent just lit a fire that nobody saw coming. The drama with Jay Prince and Supreme McGriff's crew might be way deeper than anyone ever guessed. And from what 50's spilling, this ain't just about rap beef anymore. At first, everybody thought it was the usual, egos clashing, 50 refusing to check in, Jay Prince feeling played.
There's supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
But now 50 is straight up claiming there was a real setup to take him out, and he's naming names. The wildest part? Supreme's own son is supposedly mixed up in it. And if you thought that was messy, word is Rick Ross might be throwing gas on the flames, linking up with 50's known enemies just to stir even more drama.
But what is the reason why you moved to Houston?
Well, look, first of all, like every time I've experienced Houston, like when I was out here, I ran into random acts of kindness. Like the people have been good to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the places that I'm like, man, or maybe Houston, like Houston or Miami popped into my head. They said 58%. I said, what? You my partner? The IRS is my partner now? Oh no, all you get is a Yankee hat? I'm going to Houston.
Now that 50's pulling back the curtain on these secret connections between Jay Prince, Supreme's legacy, and shady moves behind the scenes, it's all starting to make sense. Is this why 50 suddenly ghosted Houston? Was there a real setup brewing while everybody was smiling for the cameras? It all kicked off in Houston, Jay Prince's stomping grounds. He runs that place like it's his own empire.
Is there supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
When artists roll through, they're expected to check in. They call it a respect thing, but to a lot of people, it feels more like a straight-up shakedown, especially when folks end up hurt even after playing by the so-called rules. When 50 Cent packed up and moved to Houston, Jay Prince expected him to play by the rules, but 50 wasn't having it. He flat out refused to check in, making it real clear he didn't owe anybody a thing. He had his own security, his own bag, and he wasn't about to bow down to any street codes he didn't respect. To Jay Prince, that move felt like a straight-up slap in the face. And 50 wasn't just visiting for a quick trip either, he was all in. At one point, he even tweeted, "I love New York, but I live in Houston now," and everybody assumed it was just about dodging those crazy New York taxes, which made perfect sense.
The idea of my father, seeing that it was connections to Drake and Kanye, and that they were such iconic figures, and with them going through things.
But there was way more to the story. 50 had major plans brewing, a $20 million G-Unit film studio, big-time alcohol branding deals, giving back to schools, and major community moves. He wasn't just passing through, he was building an empire right in Jay Prince's backyard. And the real kicker, he did it without checking in, without asking for permission, and without showing respect to the so-called gatekeepers. It was only a matter of time before some serious tension popped off. The whispers kicked off almost instantly. Word on the street was that 50 was getting serious pressure behind the scenes. Certain doors just weren't opening for him, and folks said he was being watched real close. Some even claimed crews were just sitting back, waiting for him to slip up.
Started a new relationship with Houston. I'm excited about it. I had an opportunity. I had a lot of fun things for the kids. I think that they're really going to get a chance to appreciate and enjoy it.
But 50 didn't flinch. He stood his ground and pushed even harder. In 50's mind, all that check-in talk was just a dressed-up way of saying straight-up extortion. And honestly, he wasn't lying, because even the ones who did check in still found themselves in crazy messes. Look at Takeoff. He checked in and still ended up gone. Jacob the jeweler got pressed hard. XXX Temptation tried to move low-key and still got caught.
Today, we have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
So from 50's point of view, why would he hand over money and power for protection that clearly didn't even work? He saw through it all, fake security at its finest. And when you've survived the kind of street battles 50 has, you don't scare easy no matter who's coming at you. Then, out of nowhere, the whole vibe flipped. 50 quietly pulled out of Houston, scrapped the film studio plans, and shifted everything over to Shreveport, Louisiana. It was a silent move, but it spoke louder than words. People were shook trying to figure out what went down. This was the same city that literally handed 50 Cent a key to the streets, so why bounce now?
It's for you, man.
Sweet.
You the only one in Miami with that, baby.
You know see what it is.
You know the vibes?
You see what it is.
Yeah.
Warming up, nigga, 2024.
You know I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like, there's nobody that's too ill. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. It's in the environment.
The answer came in just one heavy line during an interview. Houston didn't embrace me the way I expected. That said it all. Something in the air had changed, and 50 didn't feel safe anymore. And crazy enough, while all this tension was bubbling, 50 was still being celebrated. He was the Grand Marshal at the Thanksgiving parade. November 24th was officially declared 50 Cent Day in Houston. The mayor was showing big love, the community was clapping for him, but one man wasn't clapping: Jay Prince. Behind closed doors, sources said Jay Prince was heated. From his point of view, 50 was stomping through his city with too much power, too much spotlight, and no check-in. It wasn't about clout anymore, it was about control, and 50 was snatching it right from under him. But just when it looked like things might cool down, another heavyweight name got dragged back into the mix: Supreme McGriff. And if you know anything about 50's past, you already know how deep that cuts. Back in the early 2000s, 50 got hit 9 times. Yeah, 9. And a lot of people believe Supreme's crew had serious ties to that hit. That's exactly why 50 dropped his track Ghetto Quran, where he named names and aired out the street legends in Queens, and Supreme was right in the middle of it. Out in the streets, that wasn't just a song, it was seen as straight-up snitching. And Supreme didn't take that lightly, not one bit. Not long after 50 got hit, he survived, blew up, and used that near-death story to skyrocket his brand. Meanwhile, Supreme went down hard, got hit with life in prison, but through it all, he never folded, never snitched, and that earned him a ton of respect in the streets. While Supreme sat down, 50 flipped that whole saga into interviews, hit records, and even blockbuster movies. He turned his trauma into straight money, and Supreme, he never forgot that move. Then entered Irv Gotti, a major player in all this chaos. Irv wasn't just tight with Supreme, they were like family. Irv even helped bankroll Supreme's legal battles when things got ugly. Through it all, Irv stayed solid. No snitching, no switching sides. That kind of loyalty meant everything to Supreme. Meanwhile, 50 went on a rampage. He crushed Irv's label, Murder Inc., and buried Ja Rule's career right along with it. Even after Irv passed away, 50 kept the smoke going online. After news broke that Irv had died from a stroke, 50 posted a pic of himself smoking hookah next to a fake gravestone, captioning it, "I'm smoking on dat Gotti pack nay, God bless him, LOL." The day before, when the stroke news hit, 50 coldly wrote, "Damn." 50 said he wanted Irv to see his new shows, but that didn't sit right with Supreme's son, McGriff Jr. He snapped off on Instagram saying, "If I said I was smoking on your mother and your grandfather pack, ninjas would be telling me I'm wrong, right?" He straight up called 50 a clown and said, "Y'all really love this clown." Well, I'm gonna always give the same energy. Nobody can tell me nothing. To Supreme's son, Irv wasn't just a friend, he was family. disrespecting Irv felt just like disrespecting Supreme himself, and that's when things got real serious. 50 started getting slick online, dropping cryptic posts, little jabs about snakes in the grass and enemies moving in silence, making it clear he wasn't blind to the heat building around him. Then boom, it exploded. 50 allegedly leaked info hinting at private talks between Jay Prince's crew and Supreme's son. Supposedly, there were conversations about setting 50 up, pressing him, or even worse. And 50 wasn't about to keep it low-key either. He made sure the world saw it. He even started trolling Jay Prince directly, daring him to show up and face him. No fear, all smoke. And just when you thought the drama couldn't get any hotter, boom, Rick Ross popped up in the mix. Ross and 50 been beefing for years, lawsuits, family shots, nonstop disses. These two don't rock with each other at all. But recently, Ross was spotted hanging out with folks from Supreme's camp. To most people, it might have looked random, but to 50, that looked like a straight-up alliance. Ross linking up with the son of the man who once tried to end him, that was bold, and 50 took it as a clear message. Now here's where it gets real wild. Word on the street is that this meetup wasn't just some friendly hangout. Allegedly, it was part of a bigger play, a setup to take 50 out. Some insiders are saying Supreme McGriff Jr. is done playing nice, especially after 50 kept throwing shade at Irv Gotti online, even after his passing. And with Jay Prince stirring the pot too, that takes the whole thing to another level. Jay Prince isn't just mad about 50 refusing to check in anymore, this is getting way deeper. Word is Jay Prince ain't just mad, he's trying to make an example out of 50. If 50 gets away with clowning the so-called street rules, then other rappers might start ignoring the whole check-in culture too. And that would be a major problem for the old guard. And honestly, 50 better keep his eyes wide open. Because when you dig into Jay Prince's past, you realize just how deep his roots really run. He's not just some music boss. This is a man who allegedly rose up with real street muscle and serious connections. Way back in the late 80s, his name was already popping up in federal files. Rumors say he had major routes running from Mexico straight into the South, pushing heavy product through Texas, Louisiana, and even sliding into Chicago. This wasn't some small hustle either. This was organized global-level moves. And right around that time, he allegedly linked up with none other than Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples. Once that connection locked in, the whole game shifted. Houston to the Midwest turned into a full-blown pipeline, and Jay Prince, he was sitting right in the middle, pulling the strings. Then out of nowhere, Rap-A-Lot Records burst onto the scene. On the surface, it looked like a label built to shine a light on Houston artists. But out in the streets, people were saying it was way more than just music. Word was it was a front, a slick way to clean up all that heavy street money. And the feds, they weren't sleeping on it. By 1988, the DEA had a full investigation locked on Jay Prince and Rap-A-Lot. They were tracking shipments, bugging phones, watching houses, flipping drivers, pressuring anybody they could get their hands on. They built a serious case, and just when it looked like they were about to slam the door shut, the whole thing disappeared. By the late 90s, the U.S. Attorney General dropped the case completely. No charges, no court dates, no nothing. Just silence like it never even happened. And let's be real, that kind of magic doesn't just happen by accident. Not unless you've got some major pull behind the scenes. Now, fast forward to today, and 50 Cent might be stomping all over toes that have been dangerous for decades. So what do you think? Is 50 playing with fire he can't put out? Is 50 Cent just being paranoid? Or is he smart for calling it out before something crazy goes down? Is there really a setup brewing behind the scenes? Or is this just a high-stakes game of ego and power playing out in public? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about all this madness. And if this drama keeps heating up, you already know we'll be right here breaking it all down. So don't forget, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn those notifications on, and share this with your crew. Bullseye. Catch you on the next one. This saga is just getting started.